Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Seed Collectors. This is one I've been working on for a little while, trying to get Brandon on. How you doing today?
Man, Chad, so good to see you, man. I minus one wing, but I'm doing really good. Knock on rocks. Yeah, no complaints. Beautiful day in the PNW.
Heck yeah, dude. Indeed it is. And that's something that we have in common is we both kind of live on the west side of the mountains in Washington, so we share a climate. And you're a little bit braver than I. You do some growing outdoors, and so we're going to get into some of the genetics that have worked for you outdoors because again, it's kind of a challenge to grow here. We get a lot of heavy rain starting in August and September. And well, that's probably when your buds are really starting to swell, and PM is a beast. But we're going to be talking seeds today. And I'm really stoked to have Brandon on because he is a walking just memorabilia, a living legend as far as experiences go, all the way from, the dead lots all the way back. I mean, I don't want to tell the whole story. I'll let Brandon do it, but we're going to be talking some of his favorite strains today, maybe some of the ones that have gotten away, some of the things that he's still working with, and things he's excited to work with in the future. So we'll be doing that. As always, though, we're going to be showing some beans off, and I want to kick it off because I know I'm going to be asking Brandon a lot of questions, and he has some great stories. So I got a new shipment from James Loud in this last one. I've
Awesome.
got a strawberry Gorilla OG auto, which will be interesting. I don't grow a ton of autos myself, and outdoors here, actually, I might be able to get away with an auto because I can plant that once it stops being cold here. The light hours don't matter because it's an auto. So who
Right.
knows? Maybe I'll toss one of these out uh, in the spring. But the one that I'm really stoked on here. This is why I had to show. This is kind of like my 2024 strain of the year, and it is the Permanent Midnight. Let's see if I can. Yeah, Permanent
Yeah, got it.
Midnight from James Loud. It is the permanent marker crossed with double lemon cherry. And wow, I smoked this when I went down to James' facility, and it just hit me hard, made me stupid. Like it was phenomenal smoke, smelled good, and the effects were out of this world. So
I
stoked to
was
pick these
watching
up.
his interview with Bodhi, and I think he
Yeah.
talked about that particular strain. Yeah, I've got a cart with some of James's work in it right now. I'm trying to decide what else I want before I pull the trigger, though. But I've wanted to get some of his work in the stable for a while, so I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so hard. I mean, we both have more seeds than we can pop right now, but there's always something else that catches our eye, something that we want out there like this. This is probably going to skip to the front of the line on the next grow just because I don't have anything close to something like this right now. So it's going to
And
fill
how
a
cool
hole.
is that we have a excess of seeds and opportunities, and every seed to me is like that package under the Christmas tree that maybe doesn't even have a label. You don't even know whose present it is. Who knows what's in there. And yes, I love, man, I mean, I think about all the seeds we threw out, all the seeds we threw in the trash. It's kind of mind blowing. All the things we've lost.
Well, let's go back a little bit because to give people a little bit of background. I'm familiar a little bit with your story and your experience, but let's share that. When you say we threw out seeds, that's not a '90s problem. So
Yeah.
when did you kind of get into the cannabis, or at least start paying attention to maybe just like the names or different kinds of strains? Because for me, for a while, it was just all got some, don't got some. Those were the only two kinds.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
I started paying attention. So how did
Yeah.
you kind of start learning that stuff, and maybe if you had mentors or how you came about it?
Yeah. So I'm a second generation cannabis grower. My folks were heads, and they grew, and my uncle grew, and there was maybe sometimes a big cornfield full of it, and sometimes there was a plant here and a plant there. I grew up in East Tennessee in Appalachia, And I think that's a really interesting little side note is I grew up in Appalachia. I've lived in the Midwest, down south, and now out west. And cannabis, there were little micro ecosystems all over the country. Florida had a little thing. New York, New Jersey, had a little thing. I've got a buddy who, came back from Korea, and he was able to buy a farm because he went through some really hard stuff and came back and was having a really hard time, didn't want to be around people. And he found some guys that would pay him to sit on a hillside and fire off a couple of warning shots if they needed to leave. And like and so each little micro ecosystem had their own, what was the top shelf. And it might be like Meigs County if you're in Kentucky or Ohio. It might be, Acapulco Gold if you were in, New York or Columbia and in San Francisco. And everybody had their own little genetics. Most of what I had forever was picking seeds from the best weed that you could get your hands on. And I always laugh, when my kids bring in a CD case. I'm like, how in the hell could you clean seeds on a CD, compared to an album? It was a lot easier, so like, but my parents grew. I don't really count that as my, I was just a kid. I've been smoking for a really long time. I can remember smoking at age 4 in the Smoky Mountains and loving it, absolutely loving it.
Wow.
And but then going on to be a good student, good athlete, and kind of proving for myself that all that stuff was silly. And when I started paying attention to cultivars was mid late 80s. That's when, because, there's all this, like the hippie trail over in Europe through Asia, Brotherhood of Eternal Love. I mean, I feel super lucky just to be a deadhead. One, I got to have some really great times, but two, that was when we talk about those different microclimates. That's how, if you were in this microclimate, you could get access to
Right.
this weed if you were on tour. You were going to bump into it and you were going to smell it and you were going to go hunt it down and do whatever you had to do to beg, borrow, steal to get that guy to, how do I get a cut? No, 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 no. Like, I want the weed, but how do I get a cut? Um, Most of it was bag seed. We were chasing things in, towards the late into the 80s. Like real roadkill skunk, which I really haven't seen. I get
Okay.
my bad hand up, and I haven't seen it since like 88, 89 at the
Yeah.
latest. Have not seen it. And anybody that says they've got it never smoked real roadkill skunk is all I could say. It was amazing, and it to
Yeah.
me still is kind of the holy grail. Like, that is
Mhm.
one of my all-time favorites because, like,
Do
no, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt here, but I absolutely agree, because if anybody did truly have it, they would be an overnight millionaire, and I don't think anybody disputes that.
I'd
But
sell out in a heartbeat.
oh, the overnight millionaire is not an understatement. You're an
No.
overnight millionaire if you actually have it.
Yeah.
But do you think it maybe has something to do with street lamps, Miracle Grow, and just crappy potting soil? Like, was that the real magic? Is that why we can't find it anymore?
No, it's because we were getting, I mean, I remember being on Dead Tour and they had undercover DEA that might ride in a van with you for 200, 300, 800 miles and then bust your friend, you know? I remember
Damn.
when they used to sit on top of the stadiums with walkie-talkies and binoculars, and they'd tell somebody to go down to row 8, seat 3 and grab your ass. And so, like, we were being actively hunted. They were throwing 30-year and more sentences on us. And skunk, and this was before grow shops and stuff, so like there weren't carbon filters, there weren't solutions. And so, like,
Yeah.
a skunk, what were you going to do? Because you'd smell it 6 blocks away, you know? and this was before HEPA filters even. There just wasn't anything to
Yeah.
do. And so, and we've lost a lot of strains because people were greedy. We lost a lot of strains because people were fearful that somebody would, abuse their work. We lost a lot of strains for a lot of reasons, but a lot of the stuff we lost, one, we didn't realize how desperately we needed to curate that. But two, there were some real legal pressures that, some of the really loud stuff was not desirable. It would get you in trouble,
Yeah.
you know.
I I do remember kind of people breeding towards like a plant with low to no odor.
Yeah.
And that in those
Early
days was
90s.
attractive. That's what people wanted before you had to really necessarily cater to the demands of the consumer. Now that was like blasphemy. Why would you do
Right.
that?
Right.
But I
Early,
mean, like you
early,
said,
like 88 to 91, foot on the gas. It was all zero odor indicas, something that'll stack and something that I can't smell in the room,
yeah,
something that we wouldn't want to smoke. But back to that time, that same time frame, that's when, and I was only seeing those because of Dead Tour and Deadhead Friends. That was it. That's the only reason I knew about those strains. I never saw them on the street, and like I went to big
wow.
universities, Indiana University, Ohio State. Those are big schools as far as population. And we didn't see that kind of stuff aside from friends that were on tour or being at shows. Um, and then you had stuff come along in that same time period. You had all this really good cannabis from all over the world go to California. They did their magic. It all went to Amsterdam. You know more about
Yeah,
this history probably than I do. Um, and then a lot of that went back out into the world and contaminated all the land race. I won't say all, but we lost
a lot.
a lot, and that's a really painful thing. um, at that same time, though, you got stuff like Cannabis Culture magazine, and I
Mhm.
have to assume there's some old farts like me that remember that here, and Mark Emery, who
Yeah, that's
that's a whole other divisive conversation.
that that
But the magazine itself, for somebody like me, was I mean, oh my God, the coolest thing ever. It was like, being a little kid and you'd get the Sears catalog and you'd circle everything you wanted to get for Christmas. And
yeah,
we
yeah.
would just sit there and salivate over those magazines, just,
Well,
and it's funny too, because I look back sometimes and I think about, like, there was this one Soma strain that I thought was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. Now, you know, uh,
which
35.
strain was it? Which strain?
It was, I think it was the Somango,
Okay.
but
Yep. Yep.
I've grown that, and what I realize now is that beautiful color was a nutrient deficiency, and so it's kind
Ah.
of funny to me. Um,
Yeah.
but so we had access to like Cannabis Culture magazine, um, Dead Tour. We were definitely passing around hey, my buddy's got this. I know you grow, you should get this,
Right.
especially if you live in town with me, um, because like we had a little crew in, I don't know, like 94, 95, where we would just go play disc golf all day, Monday through Friday. So that, that way the neighbors thought we had jobs. But like everybody held a different cultivar. So like you would hold
Yep.
a G13 and I would hold a Juicy Fruit. And so you're responsible for maintaining that mom. Don't lose that mom. But that way
Mhm.
you didn't have to maintain all of them, just the one. And it worked really well, But so that's when I really started paying attention to names. That's when I started having access. Um, my first like cuts, which were just little spider mite factories, just like, crawling, um, were like
Of
White
course.
Widow, things like that. And I actually got them from like the coolest, nicest guy. And it was really funny. I was at a party with a buddy of mine, and we had been getting some really good herb. Um, I miss Juicy Fruit. I miss, there's a couple like Silver Pearl. We were getting some weed that I was really liking. I was at a party with a friend of mine, and this guy came in, this younger guy, kid, and we were kids, and so he was real young, and
Yep.
he looked like Bobby Brady. He looked like the most innocent. We called him Bobby Brady. That was his nickname. And so like he looked like the most innocent, like straightest person on the planet. And we just broke out a bunch of weed. And I was like, hey, yo, what the check yourself just a second. This guy just walked in. He looks real straight. And my buddy starts laughing. He's like, that's the
Narc.
yeah, 6 up, 6 up. And he's like, dude, that's the plug. And I was like, he's the plug? And he's like, yeah,
Nice.
he's the plug. And I was like, yes, the smartest plug. My buddy Paul, he makes fun of me to today, and I'm like, well, I don't have to worry about it nowadays. And he's like, yeah, but he's like, still, they're gonna grab you, not me, no matter what happens. And I'm like, that's true. But so
Yep.
this kid, we became friends, and he was super chill, very generous. Not even trying to charge me for clones. Just wanted to
Wow.
trade. He was super
Wow.
down. We traded music and stuff, and
Nice.
he was real heady, man. He was super kind, and he got me hooked up with my first like real grow lights, not not banks of fluorescents, and like
Right.
I've been doing this almost, like 40 years now. And it was really scary. Even your best friends, like my twin brother, didn't know I grew for at least 10 years.
Damn.
We were operating on a very much need to know. Your girlfriend couldn't
Yeah.
know,
No.
your best friend couldn't know, just because it was so cool. It was so much cooler when it was illegal. And so your friend was going to get drunk one night and brag about it, or bust out some really good weed and be like, oh, my buddy grows better than that. And it was just too
Yeah.
dangerous. And we're talking
Yeah.
30 years that it came and kicked your door. So we kept it really quiet. But so he was like, man, I can get you a grow light. And I was like, yeah, how, where? And so there was a gross, like a botany store, with chifleras and stuff like that in it. And he's like, go over there and tell them that Bobby Brady sent you. And his name was Mark. So I was like,
Right.
word for real? And he's like, yeah. So I was super paranoid. I parked my car. So I drove away from the house. I parked my car someplace. I got on a city bus, probably changed buses like 3 times. you know,
Nice.
I get over
Yeah.
there. I walk in, and it's like a mom and pop shop with like a, Central Ohio looking mom and pop working there. And I was like looking around. I'm like, I don't see any lights. I don't see anybody that fits the description of like who I should be talking to. This older gentleman came over, and he's like, can I help you with anything? And I was like, well, here goes. I was told by Bobby Brady to come here. And he goes, oh, yeah, hang on a second. Goes in the back, gets some long haired kid to come out, and was like, hey, yeah, so Mark. Yeah, right on, man. He's like, he's got some of my fish tapes. I need to get back. Let him know, kind of thing. And, and like laced me up. I got a light, but I like carried a light on the bus, like trying to keep my shirt over it and stuff. Yeah, nothing to see here. So it was just a different time. And it was, I mean, as terrifying as it was, and I've got some real terrifying stories, and I wouldn't want
Yeah.
to do that again. We had a lot of fun, and part of it was being clandestine, and it was, you were in a little secret society that nobody else knew about or was in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you guys were growing, kind of growing cuts, growing specific things back then, because really that's how kind of traditional market would work is you had something kind of unique, something different. That's why people would go to you. And in case other people in the town had it, you just happened to grow it better. So that really doesn't facilitate a ton of like exploration or pheno hunting as we like to call. But
Lack
when
of
did you kind of,
access too.
yeah, yeah, because I mean you
We
had to order from like a European seed bank or eventually from Vancouver in Canada, but that's still crossing borders. So
Yeah, and just hope and pray that I'm Brandon Hudson. I would always send it to Brendan Houston. I'd send it to restaurants I worked in. Like
oh
I
yeah,
always,
yeah.
I gotta say, I got every single pack I ever ordered. Like every single one of
Wow.
them landed. But I'm sorry, I
So
cut you
okay,
off.
no, no, well, that leads us to, where were you ordering from in the early days? And maybe what were some of the selections you were picking up?
Yeah, so like Man, that was a long time ago. We were definitely getting like building block stuff. When I think of like stuff I like, I was talking to Tad's dad earlier today. He stopped
Mhm.
by, and we were talking. We were
Cool.
talking to like what's going on. I was like, oh well, if the power comes back on, I'm going to hang out with Tad. And so we were talking about like what kind of cultivars, because Tad's dad is 76, and so he definitely
Yeah.
got the Acapulco Golds, the Colombians,
Yeah.
the Panama Reds, the Thai sticks, and like I got to
Mhm.
see some of that, but I'm not going to pretend like I can critique that stuff or know what, I was a kid. I was a kid. So, um,
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate it. I didn't understand how cool it was to, because like we all knew how to roll joints and stuff as little kids. And, it was just, I think it was just that generation of that era, hippie parents. But, I remember the Mikado. I really liked that one. We were definitely getting all the early building blocks, and that's what Tad's dad and I were talking about. Is
Okay.
like what cultivars do you like? I like a cultivar that doesn't have much of a family tree, because he's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, I like those older building blocks, haze, skunks, northern
Okay.
lights, those things that like people had found, fell in love with, and then started crossing them,
Hmm.
like what is it, Hindu Kush times skunk is pot of gold. And like I like really strong pot, like marijuana. Like if everybody else is
Okay. Wow. I haven't heard
paranoid.
that one for a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one for like maybe 10 years. But like if
Yeah.
everybody else is paranoid and vomiting, I'm like, this is good weed. I'm like, I like really strong weed,
You, you need to hang out with Rasta Jeff, who also has dreads down to almost his feet. And he's a
Awesome.
tall 6 foot plus guy as well. But I had him on for a breeder interview, and his quote, he's like, I really love sativas. I love the racy sativas. I want the paranoia. I want to lose my keys in my car while I'm driving.
Please,
I'm like,
please.
okay.
Yeah, I got to give props to somebody. When Tad, Ben, and I were at Soil Summit this past year, um, a lot of really kind people kicked down some really nice weed to us, and enjoyed all of it. Um, my buddy Blair, Grower for Life, I'm going to plug him here, had some really good sweet. I don't really go for sweet stuff normally. I'm a gas all day,
Okay.
skunks, funky, gassy, kerosene, gasoline, sour diesels. Like that's my love. And, but like he had some fruity stuff that I loved. And so I get props to that. But then Chris from Flora and Flame gave me some weed, and I was, got to get on a plane at some point. So I'm smoking everything I can as fast as I can. I feel a personal responsibility to get as much weed smoke out of the air myself as I possibly can. Like I am a HEPA filter for weed. And I smoked this haze that they did at Flora and Flame, and I'm sitting there, and there was a bunch of really nice people talking to us, and and just nice, nice to meet you, and oh, you helped me with this, or just really nice, pleasant conversations. And all of a sudden, I was like, man, I am high. I am too high to be in. Wait a minute. What am I saying? I've been dying to get too high. I haven't been too high in so long. And then I was just like, oh, this is great. So I'm trying to get too high. I like the paranoia rush. I like the you lose your keys in the car kind of thing. I do a lot of math. I'm the agronomist at KIS. I do soil analysis, and so, I'm not going to be, you know, taking any bong rips in any pot of gold and doing
Yeah.
soil reports, because I have a I have an economic, moral, and ethical reasons and liabilities to make sure all that stuff is accurate and correct.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
there's
Yep.
certain weed that I like to smoke it. It's just like eating a piece of candy. It doesn't lift me, change me, but man, it tastes so good, you know? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know.
The hazes are good, and we actually my next run that I'm going to pop, I'm going to do some of the hazes, and I've showed them on the show before, but they're from a mutual friend. Um, And I think we have actually talked about these hazes. One's crossed with like the Durban Poison and Diesel. I think I wish I had him. I should have had him right here with me for the seed collector show. But I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted you there about your
No,
preferences.
yeah, so like I have preferences of like what I like and that kind of stuff, but we were trying to, the stuff we were ordering was those building blocks sort of, cultivars. I got lucky and got hooked into the Dayton G13 in like 94, 95, somewhere in there. Um, but before that, like real roadkill skunk in the like 86, 88 range, 89 maybe. That was like the first one where you smoked that cultivar and you were like, well, shit, I could give you my car. Like that's probably all I own, but yeah, I give you that. You can take all my albums and my car. How about that for an ounce? Like it was the first weed that like you were like thinking criminally, like I need this. Like, this is amazing. Like like I gotta snatch a purse or two, like and I'm totally joking, but like
Damn.
like it was just weed that blew your mind. It hit all the notes. It was and that's I like really complex, both in terms of terpene, cannabinoid map, um, and the physical experience. I don't like a single note, super high THC. It's kind of it leaves something lacking for me. So I'm always gonna love flower.
Hmm.
I was just hitting a Puffco just a second ago. I love hash too, and it's so cool that we can. I mean, man, back in the day, if you had hash, wow, holy cow! Except if you were on Dead Tour and you went up to Canada and they didn't have any freaking weed at all, just all hash. Like all the guys I would meet up there, they would do anything for us to bring them some weed. Like, are you coming? Yeah, we're coming. Well, can you bring something? Don't you guys? And they would just throw bricks of hash at us because they had there's a bunch of like Hamilton, Ontario. There were dead shows up there across from Buffalo. And there's a lot of folks from the Middle East there. And you know how it is when an immigrant community gets established and then they can bring other people. And so you get this kind of established community, and a lot of them were importing hash. My folks had some close friends that had essentially like a kibbutz in East Tennessee. They immigrated from Israel to New York, set up a bogus import business, and sent over all kinds of super cool artifacts packed full of hash. And
Wow.
within a year, they bought an entire mountain in East Tennessee and had set up this super cool kind of commune slash farm and everything. And um, yeah, yeah, I don't know. So I really like personally like sour diesel and I could run off together and be happy for life. Like that's the one cultivar for me that I could still get access to. That for me, like I love the high. Like I can get more high. If I smoke more diesel, I'll get more high. If I smoke more,
Right.
I'll get higher. Like I just don't feel like I've ever hit the ceiling with that. Um, and I can smoke diesel every day for a year and I'll get high every single
Yeah.
time. There's a lot of weed now where I feel like I smoke it once and I'm like, oh, novel experience. I smoke it again. And I'm like, gonna send that to like a niece or a nephew in a less friendly state, or I'm not gonna finish this. And yeah, yeah. But so I feel really lucky that we've got all this access now. But some of the stuff I really loved, is kind of hard to come by now.
Well, we do. We always look back and, like you said, we didn't really know we needed to be preserving or be stewards of a lot of these things. The pace at which genetics has progressed or moved on has just since the 70s just rapidly
Well,
year over
since
year,
the
doubling
2000s,
itself.
though, since the 2000s, I feel like it's by like a factor of 100 or something. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I can remember in like in the 90s, like friends in Amsterdam, like I had a buddy who sent me, you'll appreciate this with your time in Amsterdam. He sent me packs of Stroopwafels. It's like the
Yeah, scoop
little,
waffles.
okay, so he sent me those, and just no mention of anything. And I was like, this is weird. He sent me cookies or, whatever. And
Yeah.
I broke one open like an Oreo, and he had packed seeds into every single cookie. You know,
Wow.
no labels, no idea what anything was, but I mean, I made a living off of those Stroopwafels for years, like had no idea what any of it was, but it was all fire.
Yeah. So when did they? Because yeah, I mean, up until the '90s, that's what a lot of this was. It was kind of a lot of bag seed. It was a lot of unnamed seed. It was a lot of these kind of building blocks, which came from the previous things I've just said. When did you start collecting strains with, or sorry, cultivars with, or seeds with proper names? Like when did that hunt begin, and when did you, or what were they? What were the first ones, cultivars that you were really seeking out in a seed form?
That would have been mid 90s that,
Okay,
that I had access. And again, it would be like, skunk number one, Northern Lights one, Northern Lights five, Neville's Haze,
Scentsy
um,
seeds type stock because
Cincy
they
Seeds
were,
type
yeah.
stock. Yeah, it was easy to get, and we were just like kids in a candy store. We were going nuts. I had a buddy, that guy Mark that gave me the
Mhm.
Bobby Brady that hooked me up. He grew a haze back and forth in his veg room, like just took a mom and just ran it across the room and then ran it up a
I've
foot.
seen, I've done that.
And he just kept doing it until it was time to move out of that house. And so he filled a wall with that haze, and it was just, oh man, it was the coolest thing because it was just this giant snaking bud that, yeah. So um mid 90s we had access, with reliable, this is really what this is. And before that, like you said, it was bag seed, it was dead tour, it was friends in Amsterdam or Asia. It was but it was regional, it was very regional until then,
Yep.
because it would be very hard for you unless you knew the right person somehow, if you lived in Athens, Georgia, to get X, Y, or Z. You just wouldn't see it, unless you were actively out on the road, like doing tour or something like that. You just weren't gonna run into it, you know. Um, yeah,
Yeah. So it went from kind of collecting back then just because of location, and the people you knew, the environments you were in. But now that we fast forward to, legalization and the farm bill, we have a lot of access to genetics, way more than we
almost too
did before,
much.
from all
Almost too
kinds of
much.
different sources. Yeah, it worked. I mean, shoot, it is a show about collecting seeds, so we do have too much access. But I appreciate it infinitely because I remember when there
Yeah.
was no access, and so do you. But what are maybe some of the things that you, since this rush of genetics, what are a few of the breeders that you have been enjoying, or maybe what are some of the cultivars that you've been enjoying? And do you have any of the newer stuff with you now, or what are some things that people listening to this or watching this can actually go out and look for? Because as much as they'd all love to go out and find that original Colombian and that Mexican and that Oaxacan, I'm sorry, guys, you're probably not going to find it unless you travel in the right circle, and those circles are small.
Yeah, they're small. And um the cannabis community, in quotations, is much more diverse than I think old hippies realize sometimes. So I'm pointing at myself, like everybody likes to
Oh
smoke
yeah,
pot. Metalheads, hip hop, it's everybody.
yep,
Um, and so, finding something that works for everybody, like I said, I like it when people are, if people are uncomfortable, I'm probably not high. And so like what I like to smoke might be uncomfortable. But when I was tattooing, I had cops that would, and I was in an illegal state, but I would have cops that would, be like, hey, you wanna go do your thing, because they wanted me to be relaxed and doing good work.
Yeah.
And so they didn't care, that it was worth it for them to bend, look the other way so that they got better work. Um, I I'm really the stuff that I'm really enjoying smoking right now is okay. So here's a kind of a cool little backstory. I love weed with a backstory. So I
Yeah.
have a super silver haze sour diesel that checks my boxes. Like that's
Nice.
my kind of weed. Terpene, the high, everything about it. I like the structure on it. Um, and so I got that. We call that the KIS cut. And I got that because I was at because I lost all of my genetics, like as far as my clones, my nursery. When I moved out here, I couldn't ship that stuff across the country. So
Mhm.
I kind of started over. And so I was kind of limited. I had a couple of favorites I had seed stock of, or I'd back crossed, and I was able to get those started again. Like I really like the Stay Puff from Compound. It's like a
Okay.
marshmallow OG cross. I love the high. It's got a real unique terpene profile. Um, Kind of this like Asian sweet and sour food kind of thing.
Hmm.
It's kind
Interesting.
of kind of gross, but a friend of mine said he described it as like sickly sweet diarrhea if it was a good thing. He's like, if that was a candy, and I was like, that's
Oh,
disgusting, but he's kind of right. He's kind of right. And I
oh
can't, it's
no.
one of those things that like it can be a little rough, but then you really get in there and you're like, oh, this is amazing. Um, but that super silver haze sour diesel, I got that at a KISS party. We were all at Tad's house, and I was getting ready to pack a bowl, and Andrew, who runs the warehouse, who's a really talented grower and actually does some really cool breeding. I really like. He's got a purple Congo lemons. He's got a couple of like he works with a lot of African landrace stuff, and he's given me some really nice stuff that I'm still growing. His purple Congo Kimberry is fire. It's got like some
He,
lavender to it.
yeah, he gave me three of those kind of those haze crosses that I was mentioning earlier, and those are
Nice.
going to be next up. Yeah, next up, next run. I'm going to be popping some of those. And actually, last month, I was talking with Heavy Days, and we got on the subject of some older, more established breeders who have solid work with good provenance. And Tom Hill came up,
Yep.
and we started talking about Tom Hill Hayes and a few other things. And
I've got Trevor's Tom Hill Hayes
nice.
from Cricket
Tom Hill
Farms.
reached out to me. He reached out to me in the DMs and said, "Hey, man, I enjoyed the show. And if you were serious
Awesome.
about wanting to try some hazes, let me know." And like before he even hit send, I was like reading, go, "No, no, 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 send, send,
Yes,
send,
yes,
yes."
yes,
So
yeah.
hopefully by the time this is on, I'll have some of those
Oh,
in
that's
my
awesome.
hands. And
Oh,
that will
that's
be going
killer.
in with Andrew's work. So sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, Andrew was the ones those hazes I was talking about earlier. Were
Awesome.
the ones I had, and I was excited to pop, and I've showed on the previous episodes. But you really like the purple Congo.
Yeah, I love that one. But so the reason I brought him up is because I'm getting ready to pack something, and I had just moved here, so I had kind of smoked through everything that I magically appeared here when I got here, and so bought some dispo weed. I don't want. I bought some
We all
dispo
do
weed.
it.
Yeah, and so I was gonna roll a joint, and Andrew was like, "Man, put that away." I got you. Come on, come on, I got you. And so he pulls out this jar of Super Silver Haze Sour Diesel, rolls me up a nice joint, and I got lifted. Not stoned, but just lifted, giddy. I'm already too chatty, but it was just, like the bridge was out on the way home. I had to sit in traffic for like 2 hours, and I was just happy as I could be. I had some snacks, I had a beverage. I was just good, man. I was like, whatever. So I fell in love with that, and I sent him a message. I'm like, man, it was just so good, and where can I get some. And he's like, check this out, and sends me a picture. It had hermed, and he had some seeds. So he said, "Would you?" I was like you said, yes, 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 send it. So we got 12 seeds out of that bag and popped them and hunted them. And then we now have this Super Silver Haze Sour Diesel Kiss Cut that I
Nice.
absolutely, it's like Sour Diesel where I can't get tired of it. I don't get immune to it. I love the flavor every single hit. It tastes good in a joint. It tastes good in a volcano. It tastes good in a bowl.
Hmm.
You know, how like some things only taste really good in a joint or really good in a
Yep.
pipe or whatever. Um, and it's one of those that tastes good to the last straw. So I love that one. It's got a fairly strong high to it. So I really like that. Um, I'm going to brag on something that I built because I definitely try to plug your no joke. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
I've
you
got
drew
a
that.
yeah, I've got
You
a
were a very helpful tester on that project because your experience mirrored somebody else, actually a couple others, and I'm like, wow, I'm impressed. So thank you again for doing that R&D for me. Yeah, the Westport's posse. Yep.
this is the Westport posse, but the no joke tester was I couldn't find the pack for that, but so I just
Yep.
show the other one. But the no joke tester absolutely crushed it. Um, I mean,
Yes.
just head and shoulders for outdoor in the Pacific Northwest. Everything else
Yeah.
got eaten up, and I had really bad windstorms and rain and just all at the perfect worst time. And
Yep.
I mean, and I got a lot of yield off of that. Like it's a heavy yielder, like nice big nugs, real pretty purple, nice bag appeal. But so, anytime somebody asks me like, help, I'm in Washington, what do I do? I'm in a swamp. I'm like, reach out to Chad. And,
Thank you.
so that I would highly recommend that to folks. You will enjoy it. And I like the terpene profile. It's, more floral
Mhm.
than anything else, but there's notes of other things in there I like a lot. And so like I'm really digging like, Black Domino because it's got that pepper, like that
Classic.
really classic strong pepper.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
there's certain things I like, like that. And so I really dig that one. It was really great work. So well done. Compliments to
Thank
the
you.
chef.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna
And
plug.
thanks for growing it too. And that, like the caryophyllene, I believe, is the terpene that's kind of like the black pepper. Um, shoot. Now I'm like, is it? But anyways, that kind of flavor is what I always associate with like old school Amsterdam. And
Yeah.
specifically Sensi Seeds and Black Domina, that came from Sensi Seeds. So it all kind of just linked in my brain right there. But that's usually it's like that hashy, spicy, peppery, that kind of I'm like, that's 90s Amsterdam. Because a lot of
That's
that
awesome.
stuff was. It was
Yeah.
before like I really experienced flavors.
Yeah. Well, that's what was so amazing about the real roadkill skunk. You and I've talked about like the first time I smoked real blueberry. I swore up and down it was, I didn't even want to smoke it. I was like, this, they sprayed it with something, like it tastes too good. It can't be real.
Right.
Um, yeah. Yeah. But I, I love Gary Payton. I think everybody likes
Okay.
Gary Payton. But I had a Gary Payton Animal Mints cross um, that Tad's actually growing right now.
Okay.
I love the yield on it. I love the flavor, the terpene profile. I get nice and high. I get a little stupid, I get a little dumb, and like again, that's kind of hard. And so when I get there, I'm like, oh, very nice, And so um, I crossed that to a peanut butter cup donkey butter from a Washington breeder, and the peanut butter cup donkey butter, perfect morphology for me. Like the structure is just, it's a trimmer's dream. There's no,
Nice.
the
It's
calyx to
important.
leaf ratio. Just,
Yeah.
I hate trimming. I'm old. I'm done
Mhm.
trimming. I've been trimming for 40 years. I'm over it. I hate to do it. And so, it also has I mean, just like of all the stuff that I've run through in the last couple of years, like the trichome production on it, just phenomenal. And so I flowered a couple of those plants out, and I had a male, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna hit this to a lot of stuff and see what I can, find. And kind of like, there's certain cultivars that we know will kind of sit in the background, and so they'll take on a flavor or whatever. And this peanut butter cup donkey butter does that really well. And so what
Okay.
I got was that same beautiful purple, um, just super complex, gassy, sweet, funky, candy, just all the stuff that's in that Gary Payton animal mints. But it gave me a much shorter, much more compact plant with like incredible trichome density. So it just, like, I don't know, like James Loud, you mentioned him earlier. He's always talking about, are you doing something to improve, because I've done a lot of pollen checking, just throwing it out there, and that's fun, man. And I'll probably always do that. I love that. It's just fun. And now that I'm in a legal state, I'm like, man, just throw it
Let's
everywhere,
play.
let's
Yeah.
play. But I like that ethos of like, we should have a goal, you know. Um,
100%.
I would I don't I'm an agronomist. I'm not a breeder, like I'm an NPK organic soil analyst, like.
You know enough to know better, though. I mean, just making seeds in general is great, because sometimes you just don't know where the next access will be, and so self preservation is why I started making seeds
Yep,
and why a
me
lot of
too.
people do it. But when
100%.
you turn that corner to, like you're saying, to actually breeding is done with intent. It
From
never happens
production,
fast.
you move
Yeah,
from production to selection, and I think that that's the
yeah,
crucial thing. I've heard the guys over at Crockett Family Farms say that before. I've heard James Loud say that, um, and I think that's the crucial thing. I think everybody should be producing seed. The people that have the desire, the capability, it takes a lot of time and space to hunt cultivars,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, but so what I did is I bred those back, and here's a pack of some tattoo sadu, and that's Bagheera, and I named that after my dog, best friend I've ever had, 16 years. And I've
Wow.
been wanting to name a cultivar for her for over 11, 12 years now. And I find nothing's ever going to do justice. Nothing's ever going to be good enough for my
Hmm.
girl. But this is something that I feel good about. And I love this
Good.
cultivar. I smoke a lot of it. I grow a lot of it. I've been really happy about that. And then I just mentioned Crockett Family Farms, Dave Crockett and his son, Brian Sarabian. Um, I've been growing a bunch of their stuff. I'd love to talk about their cheese crosses. Rest in peace, Milo. I think that
Yeah.
I think we should touch
Let's
on some cheese crosses if you want, because that's, I can
absolutely.
remember, like, first strawberry cough I got, the first cheese I got, those came from a buddy of
Hmm.
mine,
Hmm.
Greg, who was real tight in on tour. And he was always the first to have,
Right.
he had Blue Dream before people were sick of it. He just always was a step ahead of us, and I
Right.
liked Blue
Yeah.
Dream. I liked it.
I still like it. I
I still
still like
liked
it.
it. Yeah, yeah. um I was smoking some purple punch hash the other day, and a friend of mine was like, dude, I'm gonna slap you next time I see you. And I'm like, well, it tastes good. I'm like, I didn't say I was
Yeah.
high, but it tastes good. Um,
It does. But yeah, but you mentioned the cheese and Milo. So Big Buddha Cheese, RIP, I believe it was 3 years ago, he passed away. But he's really kind of responsible for popularizing like Big Buddha's cheese. And my favorite, when we go to Amsterdam, we always go to Katsu Coffee Shop in the Pipe neighborhood, and we get the Big Buddha cheese or the blue cheese, and we are just happy as hell because that's a
nice.
wonderful strain. But he passed away, and so Crockett is now doing some of his work. Like, where did we transition there? Because I'd love to hear
Yeah.
more about the
So
Jesus.
they've got, so for the folks that don't know who Milo was, founded, Big Buddha Seeds, Big Buddha Family Farm, I think is what it is now. And they are still doing his work. They still have all the cheese lines. And he was, he had the best cut. We were talking about regional
Yeah.
earlier. Like he had the cut, he had the cheese cut, and he went through a lot of work to get that cheese cut. And then he did a lot of work on the back side of it and did crosses, like you said, the blue cheese and the blueberry times the cheese. And cheese was just a really, think like 2000 and sour diesel. It was just like people wanted it bad. And in the
Yeah.
UK, it was the hot cultivar in the United Kingdom. And he had that. And they were in kind of a similar situation. I don't think it was as intense, but you could get in a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah.
And, at that time. And, like cannabis it should be a really wonderful, sharing, loving environment. And there's money involved. And so it can be a very kind of cold and competitive space. And I like good natured competitive stuff. Like I would love to have like a grow off with the homies,
Makes you better.
like that stuff's great.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself and that kind of stuff. But like, there's always somebody backbiting and that kind of stuff, and I've been guilty of it. I gotta say, I've been guilty of it. I've been headier than thou. It's a real stupid young person thing to do. I've done it.
There you go.
Uh,
I'm like, we all
um,
have at one point in life, but
yeah, yeah.
recognize the error of your ways.
I'm not proud of it, but I admit it. And the reason I mention that is because I've never heard anybody say anything bad about him. Like,
Yeah. Right.
he apparently really embraced, and I never met him, full disclosure, I don't know
Me
him, didn't
neither.
know him. And but everything I've ever heard was that he really just embodied that Buddhist philosophy and was just a super chill, very kind guy. It's kind of like there are these people kind of in the background, people I shouldn't say names. There's people in the background who've done a lot, and they might be names that people know in the cannabis world, but there's certain people that have done a lot as far as like they've been real generous behind the scenes. Like they might have made a decent living for themselves. They might have done this. They might have won some cups. They might have whatever. But they also did some really nice stuff, and I like to think that that's maybe why they got that little boost in life. But
Right.
I just mentioned that to say that I really I appreciate those people, and I appreciate people that uh, are trying to move the plant and the gene pool forward. Uh,
And they're doing it because that's the right thing to do, not necessarily to garner favor. And Brandon has dropped out here. Hopefully he'll come back. Uh-oh. I'm all by myself. All by myself. That's actually a song somewhere. Okay, he's back.
Sorry.
Hey, no worries. We'll jump in. We'll jump right back into it. But those are the people who are just doing it because it's the right thing. They're not doing it because people are looking. They're not doing it because they think it will garner them, preference in the future. They're just doing it because they have the ability and they know it's the right thing. So I do love hearing about those people because most of the time those people do those things and it goes unsaid because
Yeah.
that's not why they do it. So yeah, cool to
Yeah,
hear.
I love those stories, and it makes me feel really good. And like I would be perfectly fine if nobody ever knew my name, and still it's still kind of like in my DNA, that East Coast paranoia. I don't want people to know who I am. But
Yeah.
if I could be the anonymous Johnny Appleseed, and like I had this is a little diversion because I do this segue, but I had a couple hundred plants in an apartment, had a gas leak out front, and the gas company came and knocked on my door and wanted to go through my apartment and make sure I had all the gas turned off because they were going to do some work. I said, "Get out of my apartment," and got that best friend of mine, Bagheera, to growl at the door, and they left. But they said, "We're coming back." And I was like, man, are they really going to come back? Like the gas company
100.
can't get a warrant, like I was like, but I got
Right.
really scared. I had way too many. I had mandatory minimum number,
Yeah.
allegedly. And so
Over 99.
yeah, and so
Yes.
I was scared. And so um but I'm also a prankster and I like to have a good time. And if I'm going to take a loss, it should be a win for somebody.
I
And
know.
so I had a frame backpack like for,
Mhm.
8 to 10
Hiking and
days. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and so I filled it up with all these clones. I had like, I don't know, probably like 200 clones. And
Damn.
Charleston, South Carolina is one of the more conservative places you can visit. It also has it's like the darling of the food and bev industry for the Southeast. And so
Hmm.
there's a big restaurant area of downtown. And so being a prankster, I fill up my backpack, bottom and top, I jump on my mountain bike and I go plant every single window box, every restaurant, every art store, every, gallery. Just everybody got, and it was the Mikado. It was from Cannabis Culture. And I put one in every single window. I went to like the campus, planted anywhere I could get a hole in the ground, and it was great because it kept coming back to me. I would have friends be like, like, dude, there's a weed plant at my restaurant, and I think it's like pretty close. And I'm like, oh, it should be real good here in about 4 days, And they're like, what, and I just, I'm like, I got some on the back porch, same plant, and it was just really funny because people kept telling me about it. But while I was out doing that, like my last, I don't know, 20 some clones, they were filming that movie, The Notebook. It's like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Charleston, they film a lot
Uh-huh.
of movies, and they
Yeah.
were filming that movie. And so, like, I'm sneaking around in the background, planting stuff in the window boxes while they're planning, filming that movie. So it always makes me laugh when I think about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking over here. Meanwhile, you're over there.
Yeah, doing a little Johnny Appleseed work, and that's what it really comes back to. Is man, like it doesn't need to come from anybody. You don't need any shine. You're doing the good work just by by spreading the seeds and spreading the plants. And I, and I really like it when it's human nature. I think for people to get jealous and covetous and whatever. Um, maybe it's not human nature, maybe it's the system we're in, but I do see it on a regular basis. I feel it myself sometimes, again, being fully honest. And it's really dope though when you see a breeder that you really respect and you really like their work, and you see them hit a point in life where it's not about the money anymore because they've got what they need, you know and I love to see breeders turn that corner because I feel like sometimes that's when their best work because they don't need it anymore. And so
Yeah.
anything they're doing it's all love. It's just all from
Yeah.
the heart. It's all passion driven. And I love to see that. I dig that.
Me too. And then you brought up, again, Crockett that was working with a lot of those cheese lines from Big Buddha and carrying that on. And that's something that I've heard a little bit about, but I'd love to hear more about what you're doing with it or kind of what plans you have.
Yeah. So my understanding is that at some point, obviously years before he passed away, he was in the States and visited a bunch of people, making the rounds and meeting with cool people. And some of the
Yeah.
cool people that he hung out with, and he actually stayed with Dave Crockett. I don't know, a couple weeks, a week. Don't quote me on that, but I know that he stayed with him for a minute. And they shared genetics like homies do,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we lost Milo. He passed away in his sleep a couple years ago, and again, never heard a single bad word about the guy. And so it was somebody,
Yeah.
like Master Cho just died. Rest in peace, Master Cho.
Yeah.
So like we take these hits, we lose these people. Um, Master Cho's different, but and even Milo's different from somebody like myself, where I I was terrified to have notebooks and somebody find, it was hard just to do record keeping because you had to hide that stuff under your mattress in case you got in trouble.
Evidence.
Yeah,
It's
it's
self-incriminating evidence.
federal
Used to
evidence.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so um it's real. And so those guys, everybody, I think everybody knows who Crockett Family Farms is. That's Tangy. If you've ever
Mhm.
enjoyed Tangy, you have those guys to thank for it.
LA Confidential and the Strawberry Banana are my personal favorites. Love
Yeah.
Tangy, but from Crockett, that Strawberry Banana was just phenomenal.
The
But sorry,
strawberry
sorry to
banana.
sidetrack you. Yeah.
No, no, man, I'm glad you mentioned because the LA Confidential is very near and dear to me, and I ran that for several years, and
Yeah.
man, I
It's
might
a
have to
good one.
go. I might have to go get that. Yeah, I love that one. I really like the high on that as well.
Yeah.
But um, Brian and Dave, Brian and his dad, Dave, they came on and super nice, very generous. They came on and did like a question and answer thing for the Kiss Book Club. And
Awesome.
yeah, and we talked genetics and little tips and tricks and stuff. And it was great for our audience because I don't think our audience has a lot of experience with breeding. And so it was really well received. And those guys were really generous with their time. And Brian came on twice, so
Nice.
um I and then they laced me up. I like to pay to play. I like to pay my dues. I don't ever want to show up anywhere with an empty cup unless I've got a pound of weed with me, And so um, I tried to buy some packs. I really appreciated what they did, and you're gonna have a hard time being generous to those guys because Brian immediately like doubled up everything and sent me tons of freebies and extras and um,
Nice.
yeah, I just can't say enough nice things about those guys. Yeah, you definitely owe it to yourself. Go get some LA Confidential today, man. Like, yeah, if you've never smoked that, yeah, you'll enjoy it. Yeah, I love that. And that strawberry banana. Um, and I do love citrus terps, and so the tangy, I like
Tangy.
their blood orange too. It's so distinctive.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Um,
Yep, yep, yep.
it's not like citrus or tangerine or is this, it's just like smacked in the face with blood orange. You know what it is. But so they're doing work, because they were friends and, some time has passed. And so
Mhm.
they are now offering some legit cheese crosses and just doing some work to honor Milo, which I think is super dope. Like Justin McGill from Mako Farms, he and I did some crosses to honor Jaya Palmer, who's not with us
Okay.
anymore. And so I always think that's a really nice way to try to help a friend live on a little longer. And so I really dig that. I appreciate that. Um, and so they're doing that with their cheese crosses, and they're keeping Milo's name out there, and they're really cool about talking to people and educating people about where it came from and all that kind of stuff. So super dope on their part, and super dope work. And so I think with the shadow, nobody can see my eyes too real well. But I was sampling the cheese band before we got on here, and
Ooh.
aside from my shoulder, I feel fantastic right now. So,
I
I've
feel
got some of their
fantastic.
packs. I've got some of their packs, and I'd like to go through them if that's cool.
Yeah,
Okay, so
please.
I
Yeah.
already showed off the Chad Westport because
Oh
I can't
yeah.
find my no joke tester and um, some
Oop,
Tatu
wrong guy.
Sade. Get yourself some Bagheera. Um, Before we get into the cheeses, they've got
Hmm.
the sour 98, the pre 98. I really like that. I like Kushes.
Yeah.
Or, um, so
The
here's
pre
one of my
98 Bubba Kush.
yeah, yeah.
Pre 98 Bubba Kush. Okay.
So this is one of my favorites of theirs. This is
Sweet Jesus.
Sweet Jesus, and so man, you get me with a good punchline. I'm yours, but
Yeah.
it's but
Yeah.
it's also really really nice weed. So this is the Clementine Tangy times
Okay.
cheese, and so
Ooh.
it's got that fruit, that sweet. that you would, and kind of citrusy, sweet fruit that you would expect from a tangy, but it's also got that funky, like real cheese. Like the first time somebody mentioned cheese as a cultivar to me, my first reaction was, ugh, that sounds disgusting. And I like cheese. And I was like, I don't want cheese in my weed. And then I was like, whoa, I need cheese in my weed, like this is amazing. And totally converted me. But all of these pack a decent high, I have to say. Like they're all, like they all pack a decent high. I think part of that is the cheese. Um,
Yeah.
but this is a really nice one, and I like it's got some kind of like sweet and sour to the back end of it as well. And I got to say, like, I've been growing weed for 40 years. I know enough to know that I don't know anything. And this is these are my words, my descriptors, my palate. And if you are out there and you take a rip off of something and you feel like it tastes completely different, you're right, because it's your
Oh
mouth,
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I just I see a lot of folks um, who are kind of like they are like harsh on themselves about like how they experience weed or what, and I'm like, man, just enjoy it. That's all. That's the only thing we should be doing here. Um,
And it's all personalized experiences, like you said.
yeah,
So
yeah.
where we might be close to something, descriptive wise, doesn't necessarily have to be bang on to be the I'm right in this situation.
Right,
So
right.
yeah.
I think as a just people in general, I love to be right, dude. Like, don't let me be right. Don't you dare let me be right. I love it. And and so we like to be right, but I think that a better way to be a human being is to reserve your immediate reaction, be thoughtful about it. Like I got a buddy who's a really good grower, and he's worried because his boss was asking him some questions. He's like, man, I didn't just fire back. And I'm like, well, that's probably good. And he's like, no, I like because you fire back stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but if I was an employer, that could make me feel confident, or it can make me be concerned that this guy's not taking time to think about what he's just asked me. And I was like,
Yeah.
so I don't think that's a bad thing, taking some time to be contemplative about, whatever. Um, cheese pie. Let's see if I can get that in the camera there. Um,
Yep. Okay.
okay, so
Cheese pie,
cheese
folks.
pie.
Georgia pie. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So the Georgia pie. I'm from the deep South, and anybody that's been to
Popular one.
Georgia knows that. Yeah, if you've ever been to Atlanta, every street is Peach, Northwest Peach, Southeast Peach, Peach Lane, Peach Drive, Peach. And I have to say, a Georgia peach has got nothing on a white South Carolina peach. So,
Oh.
oops, oops, Atlanta, oops.
Fighting
Let's break it.
words. Fighting words.
All fades. Let's go. But I really like this one. You get that sweet peach pie with the cheese, and as
That's
somebody that really
good, actually.
enjoys food, that's a great pairing in the kitchen. It's a great pairing
Yeah.
in your pipe too. Like I like the balance. It's really nice. The two of those. Um, cheese belts. I know I've got a pack of that in here someplace, which is the rainbow belts, which what, like 5 years ago people could not get enough rainbow belts, but so cheese
No.
belts.
And that's
And
something that hopefully maybe the cheese kind of contributed a little bit of bulk to that. Because I know like Skittles and some of the Rainbow Belt lineage, not known for heavy yields, but cheese in itself, typically a
donkey.
pretty good yielder. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it did, but this is one I'm still hunting.
Okay.
Um, I found one that's got like a candy lemon cheese that I like a lot, and and it yielded pretty respectfully. So that's one that I need to hunt more and to try out more. But you know. I'm a sucker for a hype strain, just like anybody else, man. And so, like when Rainbow Belts came out, I had to have it Z face and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And
Try it.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and you know, uh, I heard somebody describe Z as all they could smell is old men's like Aqua Velva cologne now, and after I heard that, I was like, oh no, yeah, forever now. And so, but I dig the rainbow belts. I've got a couple of rainbow belts. I've got the dark rainbow 2.0, the rainbow belts 3.0, and I like to have stuff in this. Like I said, I'm not really a fruity candy guy, but I like to have stuff in my stable, and variety is the spice of life. And who doesn't like stacking 6 cultivars in a pipe? Because that's
Uh,
that's that's
yeah,
how it's supposed to be. Yeah,
my wife does that a lot. I'll be doing that soon because right now I do have some CBD growing. I've got cherry wine, which is probably 50 to 1
yeah,
CBD to THC. So basically hemp. I got cherry wine in there, which I would love to pack in. That no joke hits me pretty good. So I would
yeah.
probably mix and match some CBD in with that. And then I also have another 1 to 1 in there. But I do agree. You got to kind of fill the holes in. The old saying is fruity, floral, earthy, and gassy. You could pretty much lump all of cannabis into one of those four. Yes, there are subgenres, but one of those
Well,
four. And gassy is where I lack right now. And so that's why, again, that permanent marker or permanent midnight, sorry, I'm hoping to that's gonna plug that hole really, really
nice,
easy. So yeah, the
nice.
permanent midnight again, the
Is
permanent
that
marker
from is
times
that from James
double
Loud
lemon
again?
cherry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Nice,
And
nice.
I smoked the flower. Ooh, focus. Okay, there we go.
That stuff
I
really hit.
smoked. Yeah, right.
Messed up
I,
your
I
camera.
smoked. I smoked the flower of it, which is a great way, and that's usually something like I like to do. Again, when you have so many seeds and you have options and you have things that you're excited to pop, and you've seen it grown well from other people too, and so that's a bunch of things that have to line up versus just a random pack that you've got. So there's already a history kind of to it. But when you can smoke that flower, and you're like, whoa, okay, yeah, you need to go to the front of the line. That
Yeah,
helps people.
yeah.
So for all you, you know, future breeders, potential breeders, I get asked that question a lot. It's like, hey, how can I, help get my work out? Grow your work, document your work, have other people grow and document it, and have samples. Like
Yeah.
the sample is ultimately what will get the people to look at the pictures, to go back and learn more about it, and then want to grow it. So, quick little tidbit of advice there.
Yeah, and same. I mean, back in the day, like Justin McGill, his dad has like a 3-step like evaluating thing that he does for weed, and so like he'll roll a joint, and then his first thing he likes to do is a dry toke, and I like
Yeah.
a dry toke
Yep.
too. I think that's
Yep.
good. I think that's nice. Then he'll light it, but he won't take a drag. He'll light it, and he calls that his concert check. Like he's trying, like how's it smell at the show, and then he'll
Yeah.
take a drag of it and see how it feels. So I love that. I think it's funny. Um,
I like
but,
that.
yeah, let me run through a couple more of these cheese crosses.
Yeah.
The ghost cheese, um, and so that's the ghost OG. So this is an
Okay.
interesting one because this is kind of like for folks that have had the ghost OG, it's kind of strong, and like
Yeah.
some people get like noided out and uncomfortable with it, and I get a little bit of that, which I enjoy. But
Yes.
it's this weird kind of up and down. So it's kind of a complex high. And I enjoy it. Like I like it to go hiking. It's not energetic, but I am. And so it
Right.
it kind of balances me out, makes me slow down a little bit. Instead of walking, hiking as fast as I can, I'm stopping and taking some cool pictures of some
Okay.
cool fungi or something like that. So, and then I might do a little sprint up the hill, so it's an interesting high, it's strong, which definitely checks one of my boxes. I also got this green crack, uh,
Ooh,
so cheese crack, and
that would be awesome.
I think
Actually,
green crack is everybody went through a phase where they
I
loved the
liked
green
it.
crack. Yeah,
Yep.
I I never felt like it was strong enough, but that's just me being weird and probably smoking more than I should. Not tech tolerance breaks, but I love the flavor. I like the high, um, and the cheese really comes through on it. I don't think what I've hunted, I get way more cheese than crack. And so but that's what, that's why I wanted some of these cheese crosses. I missed, real cheese, and it comes through in this one really nicely. What else do I have here? Oh, this is kind of nice, just because I definitely went through a phase where man, I moved a lot of
Cheese
pineapple.
colada. Okay,
And
yeah,
so
yep.
pineapple times the cheese. And again, it's kind of like the sweet cheeses, kind of like the cheese pie, where you get the sweet, but you get the cheese, the cheese with the fruit,
Mhm.
which if you're going to put out a fruit plate, man, you got to have some cheese on there. And so,
Cheese with it, yep.
yeah. So
Pairings.
I dig that one, and it's got a really nice terpene profile. I saved what I consider to be the best for last of these cheese crosses. Ladies and gentlemen, cheese band.
Yes, you mentioned that earlier, and that instantly caught my attention. So please tell us more about the cheese band, because that sounds like my jam.
Yeah, yeah. So it's one of my faves for sure. That and the sweet cheeses are probably my two
Okay.
favorites. Um, this one, it's got a really nice strong high. I think, you know, the story behind Headband and that kind of stuff is really cool. But it's OG Kush and Sour Diesel. It's one of those cultivars I just absolutely love and love to have around. It's just I can kind of smoke it like diesel, where I just don't get bored of it, and
Right.
it will get you high. You can mess around and get real high. And so I love it. And then you get some like lemon citrus sour, from it, but you also get the cheese and nice big buds. And I was really, really happy with this one. Um, yeah, just phenomenal. And lot of trikes, just a really pretty plant, smokes great, great high. It would be really hard to go wrong with that one. I really like that one a lot. I've also, if I could mention real quickly, just because they
Yeah.
were so generous, because I have people asking me all the time, what do you have for hash? And so this strawberry hash plant, you know, uh, it's got great strawberry terps to it. The icy melt hash plant. Um, they've also got the Stronana juice over at
Okay.
Crockett. And so if you're looking for a hasher, those are some hash plants you could try. Um,
And that's so I first learned of Crockett through DNA genetics.
yep.
Crockett Family Farms did a lot of stuff with them, and the bands are so popular, they all have their own tour now. So
Right.
Crockett Family Farms is one of those breeders that they've been around for a long time. They've had access to great material. They have a number of award-winning cultivars that have come out of their stable. So if people are like, I want to try something new, or, give me a new breeder to try, that's one of them. If you haven't tried them, there's a lot on the menu, and they're all really freaking good. So, that's part of what this show is about too, is just exposing people to, new breeders or just new cultivars to try out. But really, with Crockett Family Farms, you can't go too wrong. And his son, you said, is doing work as well. And his work, is that under Crockito, or is
Yep.
it also under the? Okay,
It's under Crockito,
okay,
Croquito on Instagram.
awesome. And it sounded like, actually, from the no joke testers, when we were talking, you ran a different, you ran multiple varieties out in the pumpkin patch or the squash patch, and naturally, again, Pacific Northwest, that means PM. But it was the no joke and one of them from Crockito as well that were just unfazed. They made
Yeah.
it through no problems. So
The no joke was really impressive because by the time I took it down, I had a forest of squash plants growing underneath it. And so
wow.
and they giant, leaves. it just, if you looked out the window, you'd think I had a bunch of paper plates sitting out there because it was all white, covered in powdery mildew. Terrifying. And the no jokes, we're just sitting right in the middle of it, trucking along, not a
Yes.
drop
Awesome.
on them. So, and I do, I always try to do like the full disclosure. I did not do any wounding to the no jokes. I let them, I just wanted to
Nice.
see what their natural
Yeah.
morphology was going to be. A lot of times when I'm training plants, it's because I know they're going to do something I don't like, and I'm
Yep.
trying to
Yep.
prevent that. So I wanted to see the shape on it. It's a nice, solid Christmas tree, good
Good.
structure, through nice big fat stems, but yeah, it just cruised along. And I mean, out of, I'd say 6 pounds. I lost less than a half an ounce, you know.
Dang.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then and
That's
then I and then most everything else, like I'm gonna do some autos. I'll do some autos from Crockett because they were just too generous and kind to me. And I'm gonna do so I'm gonna do some autos this spring, and I'll do a couple of plants, 2 or 3 plants maybe outside, because I want to like try some breeding stuff that I just don't want to take up space, valuable space inside with.
Mhm.
And but growing in the PNW is, like Tad and I were talking about the other day, and for me, it's not the fungal pathogen thing, because I mean, people that know me know I moved here from a swamp, like the worst, single
Okay.
worst place, single worst place
Right.
you could grow, South Carolina. They will put you under the jail for a joint. Um,
Yeah.
and it is every pest and pathogen. Like I mean, it's snowing right now, but it's also snowing in New Orleans and Florida. So this is a, real once in a blue moon kind of thing. I lived there for 25 years and it snowed twice. And so you never get cold. It's always hot. It's always wet. And so every fungal pathogen and pest is on the planet is there. And if you're slipping at all, it will take everything you've got. And so I feel really lucky. I lost a huge harvest there in a greenhouse and reached out to who I consider to be, some of the top pathologists on the planet, probably for cannabis, Dr. Michael Brownbridge, Dr. Chris Hayes, and got some really good SOPs on how to, do the right things: silica, bacillus subtilis,
Okay.
trichoderma, like all the kind of proactive things you can do. And some plants are just not worth growing, but
No.
you can definitely, like with the no joke, I could definitely fill a greenhouse up and bring in a ton of really pretty nice flower. The only downside is our DLI, our daily light integral, drops off to nothing for the last 4 to 5 weeks of flower. Like
I
our
believe it.
weather, our
I
weather in
believe
June,
it.
July is like
Awesome.
unbeatable. Unbeatable. It's the prettiest place on the planet. Don't move here. But it really is just like summer in this part of Washington is heaven on earth. Um,
Yeah.
but man, the DLI drops off to like, I grew some of like the haze crosses from Crockett outside this year. And
Dang.
I just, they just never, they just couldn't finish
Yeah.
because it
That's what I
just,
would predict.
yeah, you
That's
just
what I
run
would
out of time.
predict.
I had them in a seed shed under glass, and it wasn't about keeping them warm. It wasn't about fertility. It wasn't about water. It was just, I didn't have extra lights to hang in there, because that's what it would have taken for those to finish nicely, so.
Supplementals. So what are you? Uh-oh. He's dropped out. Oh, okay, he's back. You
Oh, I
back?
can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. I can hear you,
You can
but
hear
you
me?
can't hear me.
You can?
Yes. Yep. So you have to drop back out. And he's back in. All right,
Every time somebody
125.
shoots me a text or something, it tries to bounce me out.
Totally. Well, we'll kind of get to the end here. All right, just kind of picking back up. Um, so yeah, so what what do you have? You're mentioning you're talking about next year already. Some of the Crockett autos will go outside, and yeah, again, west side of the mountains, Pacific Northwest, very hard to grow outdoors and get things to finish. The east side of the mountains, however, has over 300 days a year of sun.
Yeah.
So we picked the wrong side, but it's the beautiful side of the state. So we'll leave it there for all my Eastern Washington friends. You guys
Right.
have amazing sun.
Yeah.
Um,
Still love you.
but exactly, still love you. I'll come and visit you. But what do you have? What's next on the two pop list? Do you have anything there with you, or is it all in your the memory bank? What is going to be coming out next?
Yeah. So I do bear with me for 2 seconds. I've got some
Sure.
stuff in the bag that is my to pop next.
Yep. And sometimes when you're a seed collector and you have limited space, or even if you have a large space, there's only so much we can do.
There's
So
only
like
so
I
much you can
personally,
do.
yeah, like I'm almost 2 years ahead in my head about what I want to do and what I need to do as far as testing, trying, hunting. So yeah, that's always a fun question to ask because you can tell who the serious growers are. They're like, well, how far out do you want me to
Right,
go?
right,
How about
right,
this next season though? What do you got
right.
coming up this next season?
So I'm always, I've got I'm dedicated to the sours and that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So um I've got this from Joe Brand. I've got the
Ooh, I
Kim
know that
brand.
logo.
Yeah.
Lucky
So
Dog Seco, Skunk
yeah.
VA. What strain was or sorry, cultivar. What was that? Oh,
So
the
this is
cam your fingers over it.
oh sorry. The
Oh, Chem
Kim
Brand. Oh, Chem
Kim
Brand.
brand.
I didn't even know
Yeah.
that was a real thing. So Joe Brand and then
Yeah,
Chem
so Joe
Dog or
Brand, it's his Kim cut times the Kim
okay.
Dog 91. So
Ooh,
yeah, I hope
which Skunk VA.
yeah, so if this is what I think it is, I'm gonna enjoy it quite a bit. Um I've got this Cincy Silver Haze
Okay.
that I'm just gonna hopefully hit to some stuff like this, to the
Nice.
Kim brand.
Nice.
I am running so hard with one hand here.
I
Um,
know. I can only imagine.
so let's see here. Can you see that?
Chem
The
Fuego.
Kim
Yep.
Fuego, which is the Kim Dog times the Sour Band. So Sour Diesel headband. Can't go wrong with that.
I know some
Um,
guys that have grown that one and they did very well with it. And I'm a fan
nice.
of Lucky Dog Seco as well. He did one called Twin Peaks, which I have and did a seed increase myself of. So yeah,
Oh,
you're
cool.
playing with fire.
Nice. Well, I just met this really, really wonderful grower who is offered me some cuts that I honestly just didn't even know what to say when he offered them to me because they're kind of like holy grail cuts for me. And he was like, "Man, I'll send them to you." And I'm just, doing some soil analysis for him. And so I'm gonna have some
Hey,
stuff in the sour diesel kind of stuff that I've wanted forever, and some stuff I didn't even know existed. And so um yeah, so if that all happens, if that comes to fruition, I might throw everything I've got in the trash and just will go on. Um,
grow it out first and make sure you like
oh
the
man,
results.
always, yeah, always hang on to a cut. So shoreline,
Ooh, damn, heavy hitter.
yeah. So Kim 91. Um, so I got the blueberry muffins. Um,
Yes.
I got the blueberry muffins and
I'm growing that for the first time right now.
the blueberry muffins I grew in someplace else and crushed it with that. And for the fruit folks, it's people love it. Um,
Yep.
this granny candy,
Granny
I don't
candy.
even know what it is, but I I have a friend. I have a friend, and they love fruit, and they are a they are a rising star, I guess. They do a lot of different things like modeling, acting, music, and we're playing with some fruit. We're playing with some candy and some fruit because that's what they like, and we're trying to find a cross that kind of checks all the bells, or all the boxes for them. Um,
Okay.
let's
Interesting.
see what else we got here. Yeah, and like that's just because it's a really sweet, good human being, and I want to do something
Hmm.
nice for him because they do nice stuff for other people, and otherwise I probably wouldn't even be messing with that one. Um,
Right.
what else do we have here? Heirloom Organics. I got this pack, the FLX Diesel, which is the New York Sour Diesel times Crescendo, which is Mendo Cookies headband, I think.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
just something that somebody sent me and said they liked it, so I was going to try it. Um, just giving full credit, the Gary Payton animal mints that I used in that peanut butter cup donkey butter cross comes from these folks here. So I want to give them credit for their work.
Nice.
I think it's really important if you make at this point, if you make a cross, you're standing on somebody else's work. There's just no way
Yeah.
around it. And so
Yeah. 100%.
there's a lot of folks that are like, "Look what I did," and I'm like, "You just kind of like they built the boat, you just guided it into the dock, you know." So like,
And yeah, and I always like to say, it's like, how did you change it? Like,
yeah,
so you found something that you really liked and you wanted to work with it. Okay, and you're working with it. What direction did you take it? Maybe did you decrease the flowering time? Maybe did you increase the yield? What sort of
I,
change have you made? And that doesn't necessarily happen, first or second generation. So that's again, when it comes to breeding, it's like when you start claiming it for kind of yours. Granted, we're all kind of working with the same building blocks by this point, but it's when you kind of take things in a different direction where I'm like, yeah, slap your name on it. But always give credit where credit's due. So sorry to
yeah.
interrupt you there, but
No,
yeah,
no, I appreciate that. I think, slap your name on it, fluff your feathers. You did more work. You should be proud of that. It's not, I'm not, yeah, you should, if you find something that works and you're able to produce it on a replicable basis, like good stuff. Well done.
and,
And I
and
appreciate it.
yeah, and for those, the like the F1s, F2s, and we're not talking proper, stable, hybridized F1s, but even then, it's like selection is an art too. So there's a
Selection's
lot of
everything.
different moving parts. Yeah, a lot of different moving parts to this thing. So
I've
yeah,
got
hit the ground
Ziploc
running.
bags full of seed. I produced a lot of seed. I haven't selected anything from that bag, And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
if you don't select it, if you don't work it, if you don't make sure that you can, like there's a couple of cultivars out there that herm. I don't even care. Herm all you want. You're so freaking tasty and get me so high. Herm it up.
yeah.
If you're providing genetics that other people are going to use, it needs to be stable, you know
That's yeah,
so like there's you got to work your lines because like I've worked lines that I love them and I'll send them to a friend, they'll put them into a facility and they're like, dude, it's Herman. And I'm like, well, you're doing something weird. I'm like, what are you doing to my plant? And when you're stressing my plant out, but you need it takes a while to find, because like, you said at the very beginning, everybody's going to grow a little bit differently. And so like you've got to make sure that it's going to work for different people. And like I've never grown the no joke inside. I don't know how it
Mhm.
would do inside. It'll probably do good, probably do great. I can't definitively say. And like I take that stance with
Right.
everything at KIS. People call and there's no end to products that are being marketed like that. Cannabis wants to reinvent the wheel every day, all day, man. And I'm like, it's traditional ag.
Yeah.
stick to things we know, and you won't get in trouble. And
Yep.
but yeah. So yeah, but just always thank the people that got you there. Let's see what else I
Absolutely.
got here. Um, little amnesia haze. Uh,
Proper. That's one thing we love when we go to the Netherlands.
yeah,
Specifically, we searched out the Amnesia Haze.
nice. I've got the Tom Hill Haze cross from Crickets and Cicada from Trevor.
Very nice.
Hot stuff. Um, I'm doing this just out of seed that I made. This is just for a friend. This is the Z Face times the peanut butter cup donkey butter. And again, that
Okay.
peanut butter cup donkey butter, its terpene profile just totally disappears. And so, but it does have just the best structure and trichome production. And so, um, I like to hit it to other things. And so I got a
Yeah.
buddy that loves the Z Face but hates growing it. And I was like, well, let's see, if we can find something that's a little easier for you to grow. Um,
Nice.
and then this is a pack that I actually just opened up again today. I forgot I had it, yeah,
Seed collector.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And
look at this one.
and a lot of really nice people send me seeds. Like I get
Mhm.
seeds in the mail and I'm like, who's this? I don't even know this person. And it's people want you to run their stuff and they're super generous about it and really kind. And man, it's way too many people to name, but I know like Crystal Rose just sent me a bunch of stuff last year and I feel horrible because I just haven't had a chance to get to it. I've got so much stuff out in front, but there's a
Yeah.
guy, a young guy, I believe he's in the LA area
Okay.
that was able to sweet talk me out of a cut of that Super Silver Haze Sour Diesel. And like I said earlier, like being that anonymous um, Johnny Appleseed of pot is like I feel like that should be the goal for all of us.
Hell,
And
spread this plant, man. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so like
Overgrow.
yeah,
Overgrow.
so like if I kick down a cut to somebody or whatever, I don't expect anything back. I just hope that they keep that cut and they love it like I did, and and something good comes out of it. Well, this kid turned around and he's not a kid, he's in his 30s, but I'm just old. I'm old.
Me, yeah.
And
Me and my wife, we
uh
do the same thing. We're like
yeah.
anybody that's like younger than us is a kid, even if they're 40.
Yeah, if you're
So
50 and under, I'm like, oh, Nino, like that's cool. Like one of my buddies just turned 50 and he's like, I'm catching up. And I was like, I wish, bro. Like, I'm so old. But so this guy, like, he sent me back like a ton of seeds. Um,
wow.
and so I don't know what I'm gonna run of this, but he sent me this LA Kush Cake times Wi-Fi 707 OG. Here's the
Okay.
AJ Sour Diesel times the Wi-Fi. Here's the Biscotti Sky Cuddler Kush times the Northern Lights 5 times Haze. Um,
Lot.
Topanga Canyon. I'll tell you that
Okay.
the sour clementine, if you need a yielder, the sour
Mhm.
clementine from Crockett absolutely just crushed it. Um,
Nice.
Skittles
Good
cherry
to know.
pie. And then these were the ones I was interested in the most. Let's see here. This is the Stay Puffed times the Super Silver Haze Sour Diesel, and that Stay Puffed is another one that I really like, and I've held from Compound, and I've held on to it. I've had that maybe like 5 years, 6 years max, but I've had it the whole
Okay.
time. And that's one of the few that I've brought out to Washington with me. And then Sunshine Daydream cross that he did. And so the Super Silver Haze Sour Diesel times the Stay Puft, I'm definitely going to run that. Um, I was real happy with the Stay Puft Peanut Butter Cup cross. It turned out real nicely. So.
See, that's sweet. Sounds like you don't have a shortage of things to go through for this next year.
Nah, I don't.
And
I've got way too much, not enough space.
a problem all of us seed
I don't
collectors
know. Did
have.
it lock
But
up again? Sorry.
All right, no worries. That's all right. We'll wrap it up here. But yeah, man, I mean, that sounds like you have a lot of choices and a lot of good things coming up this next season. So I appreciate you sharing those with us. And I know it's not even a fraction of what you
Oh
have. And,
man.
we didn't even really touch a fraction about you. You're such a really kind of fascinating person. We could go on for hours about your history. And so you mentioned it beforehand. I really hope you do a freaking story time with Brandon
Uncle
because
Brandon tells
you can.
stories.
Yep, yep. Like that would be awesome. And that would be, maybe on the KIS Organics channel. I'm not sure where you would put it, but I encourage you to do that. And I
Yeah,
think,
it'd be
I think
fun.
the people in chat have enjoyed this. And uh, hope you've enjoyed this as well. It's been a
Oh, this
fun
has been a
time.
blast. I always love hanging out with you, man. Always a good time.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So I guess if you can, I always like to give people the floor before we go, so I will give you the floor. But I also want to ask maybe too is if you had just a couple people, couple breeders to recommend that have been solid for you throughout the years that maybe a new grower may want to try. Just a couple of those, or maybe either a couple of cultivars that people should hunt.
Man, breeders would be kind of hard to pick just
Okay.
because like we talked about it several times today. We have an embarrassment of riches. Like the ability to like I've had great luck with stuff from Lucky Dog.
Okay.
There's a let me plug some small breeders because everybody knows
Please.
Crockett, everybody knows James Loud, everybody knows Bodhi, like the in-house and archive, and there's a bunch of people I've worked their stuff and it's been phenomenal. But folks know those folks, and so they should be aware of them anyway. Um,
Yep.
One Love, just the number one
Yeah.
in LUV. Some of
Yes.
those mean mug air horn crosses and stuff. Very good work, my man. So like, been real impressed with those. Um, who else? Jesse from Happy Dog sent me some really nice stuff. He's a
Okay.
Canadian guy.
Okay. Okay.
Trying to think who else it's small. Crystal Rose is really small. They sent me, I'm a deadhead. They sent me a broke down palace that I've got to get that pop just because I got to. It's if you send me a cultivar and it's named after a dead song, I will pop it. I promise. I have to. I can't not do it.
We
Um,
just found the key to your heart.
yeah, yeah. It's all Jerry. It's all
Yeah.
Jerry. Um,
I,
but yeah, yeah.
I really like One Love. That's awesome that you said that because I do have some work from him. I actually interviewed him a few years ago on the Future Cannabis Project, that Mean Mug air horn. I know I have that sitting in the box, something that I want to get to. And, he's someone that I've kind of stayed in contact with over these years, and hopefully we'll have him back on again soon. Actually, we were talking about January last year, so I need to
Nice,
reach back out. Reach back out to
nice.
One Love. But that's cool you mentioned him. Small
Yeah,
world.
I made some crosses with that with the peanut butter cup donkey butter, and we give out free genetics on the KISS. Like if you're a part of the KISS Patreon, once a
Okay.
quarter, Uncle Brandon reaches into the bag and I'll grab out some seeds and send everybody. I sent what was it? I sent Bagheera times sour chills, Capulator's sour chills. I sent a bunch of seeds out to folks just recently, and so
Nice.
we try to do that Johnny Appleseed thing as a company too. And you know, man, it would be impossible to pick. Like, I can't pick a favorite. I just can't. Um,
Well, in case it comes to you, because I'm sure as soon as we're done, you'll be like, I should have mentioned them.
yeah, yeah.
Where can people find you? So they'll hit you up later. Where can they find you though?
Yeah, so I'm super easy to find, too easy to find. I'm at KIS Organics. My email's super easy. It's just Brandon at kisorganics.com.
Nice.
I'm the agronomist over there. I do soil analysis, water analysis. I help folks with pest and pathogen issues. I've been growing for a really long time, 40 years, and so I do a lot of the plant ID and if you've got a deficiency in that kind of stuff. Like I can remember one time, like trying to tell a girlfriend's parents, like sitting out by their pool, and I was like, you need,
Totally.
you need a little potassium. She's like kicking me under the table, she's like, shut up, quit exposing yourself. But yeah, so I'm over at KIS. You can find me there anytime. When Tad is not doing Tuesdays with Chad Westport, I fill in. I'm the second
It's a much
second
better show, guys, if
I,
I'm being
I'm
honest.
I'm the second date for prom with Tad. So I get to fill in, and so I do that. I also help Tad host book club and our end of the month hangouts, and I also do a decent amount of, considering my workload, a decent amount of public speaking, and so. You might catch me in Seattle or Portland, or going to be out. So September 5, 6, and 7, myself and most of the KISS team, Tad, Dr. Ben Higgins, Tad's dad, Leon Hussey, one of Elaine Ingham's first advisors. We're all going to be in Montana for at Collective Elevation. We are helping to host a science-based, data-driven cannabis expo, essentially like a
Awesome.
conference. But it's all going to be, there's a million ways to skin this cat, to grow
Yeah.
good weed,
Yeah.
and finding a way that works for your ethos, your ethics, your
Yeah.
aesthetic, your work life, your workflow. Is it fun? Is it a drag? Like, if you can find. I'm not dogmatic. I'm a dyed in the wool organic grower. I've been doing it like 20 plus years organics. Um, but I'm not dogmatic. Dogma keeps you from being able to learn. Dogma keeps you from being
Mhm.
able to experiment and improve. And dogma just keeps you from being able to even see other potential goals. And so if somebody needs a hybridized or a combination approach to things, I like to work with them on that kind of stuff. I love to solve problems for growers. If I can help a grower out there, I love it. I've gotten a little too popular as far as like being able to get back to everybody. And like, I usually,
Yes.
I used to take phone calls. Every single person that called KISS. I mean, if you talk to anybody who's talked to me in the last 2 years at KISS, like, I'll give you 2 hours. I'll answer every single question you ever had. And I can't do that anymore. It's not functional. And I don't really have much quality of life doing that, because I'm working till midnight to get emails and my actual work done. But we do try to provide a lot of free education and information through the website and that kind of stuff. And, I am always down to help somebody. I've just got to find the time.
That's awesome, man. And I know your commitment. I think people are going to just figure that out by watching this episode and seeing kind of the passion and the love you have for the plant and your experience. So it makes it's no surprise to me. But yeah, you do have to have that work life balance. Super important. But I'm glad you're able to kind of find that now, and people are
Yeah.
still getting awesome service, awesome support. That's one thing about KISS Organics that I kind of like preach and love. And I'll make sure to
Thank
put
you.
the KISS Organics link or the website down in the show notes. So guys, check that out if you want to. And you mentioned the Tad and Chad. We are on the second Tuesday of every month at 2 p.m. on the KISS Organics channel and Chad Westport YouTube channel. And then every Tuesday first, third, and fourth Tuesday of the month, go to KISS Organics YouTube channel and you can catch Brandon and Tad talking shop. And again, it's the better of the two shows. But don't forget to show up for my show, second Tuesday of every month with Tad. Man, this has been fun. And we're going to have more Seed Collectors episodes coming up here in the future.
Awesome.
Yeah, this has been great. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. Brandon, dude, thanks again for coming by today and sharing a little bit of love, dude.
Thank you so much for having me, bro. I enjoyed it big time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Everybody, have a good day out there and party on.
1, 2, Westport!